order at 9:03 a.m. Roll call, please.
Gershenson.
Here.
Joliet.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Lutz.
Here.
Kokendorfer is absent with notice. Nelson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Excellent. Next up, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, next up we'll move on to the approval of the minutes dated from September 13th, 2022. If there aren't any corrections or changes, do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet, supported by Commissioner Loops. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Next up, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Again, if there aren't any changes or corrections, do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Loops, support by Commissioner Joliet. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda's approved. Next up, we'll move on to our first public comment of our meeting. As a reminder, this is for items that are related to the agenda. So at this time, I'd like to open up public comment. If there's anyone from the public who would like to speak, please make your way to the head of the table. Seeing that there's no one from the public, I will now close public comment. Next up, we'll move on to communications. We have one item, and it's item A, Auburn Hills Resolution, setting forth facts pertaining to Oakland County proposed public transit millage plan. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet, support by Commissioner Jackson. Any questions, comments in regards to this communications item? All right, seeing none, please prompt the vote. I'm sorry, Commissioner Loops.
I have a question regarding transit and the millage. So if the millage fails, will SMART and the other transportation companies continue on? Where will their money come
It's a
from?
great question, Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, thanks, Penny. That obviously is a question people ask. And so I have been told, and I just want to be sure everybody knows, they can contact this Neil Greenberg, who's kind of our transit person. He asked me to make that announcement that anybody can call him. But the SMART team will convene the day after if it loses and put up another millage for a 4-year SMART millage.
But that wouldn't happen until months later. So what happens between November and the next election in May?
Hillary, here?
Doesn't the smart contract go until June?
I thought it did too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's what I thought I did it as well.
I believe that's the case from sitting in on the OCPTA meeting. I could be wrong.
I think you're
Okay.
right, because that was a panicky question, of course, right? There's no guarantee, but that's what I was told, that they'd meet immediately right after. So they have a Plan B.
Okay.
SMART has a Plan B.
And the other 3 agencies would continue?
I would assume so.
Would-
That I don't know.
What I can do, Commissioner, I'm making some notes right now. I do know as we lead into board meeting next week, we'll have a caucus. I'm sure that we could get some clarification for both caucuses before we do lead into the board meeting.
Okay.
In regards to just getting some clarification. I think it's important
All right.
that those questions are addressed, for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, any other comments, questions in regards to communication A? Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Next up, we'll move on to our regular agenda. Commissioners, as we lead into, let me go back, and we got to get a motion. No motion?
Not until we're actually ready to propose any.
Excellent. So just as a reminder, Commissioners, we're going to be leading into our interviews for the Solid Waste Planning Committee. And just as a little reminder, the purpose of the Solid Waste Planning Committee is to assist in the preparation of the Solid Waste Management Plan, pursuit of MCL 324-11533. The Solid Waste Plan is state mandated, and it's an enforceable program to minimize the impact of non-hazardous solid wastes that it may have on public health, the environment, and our landscape. Our task today is, as I know during our last meeting, we discussed reviewing the applications for the solid waste industry, the environmental interest group, and the general public. At this time, I would like to request, as we've done in previous practice, that during our interviews, we will have cameras off, and then after the interviews are conducted, we will turn the cameras back on. So at this time, I would like to request to have our cameras turned off as we lead into our first interview. Alrighty. I'd like to recap that this morning we interviewed a variety of passionate individuals that all had vast experiences, perspectives, and interests in sitting on the Solid Waste Planning Committee. We heard from applicants under various different categories under the Solid Waste Planning Committee. We heard from individuals for the solid waste industry category, the environmental interest group, as well as the general public seat. Our task, commissioners, this morning is to narrow down applicants that we heard from this morning and hopefully proceed forward with a recommendation of individuals for the solid waste planning industry, the general public, and the environmental interest groups. So at this time, I'd like to open it up for commissioners in regards to discussion, recommendations. So Commissioner Loops.
I'd like to move for the solid waste industry to appoint and reappoint the 2 incumbents along with Adam Christensen and Bernard Gill.
Okay, so Commissioner Loops makes a motion to recommend Mike Sapo, thank you, Mike Sapo, an incumbent, Kevin Kendall, incumbent for reappointment. And in addition to moving forward with recommending Adam Christensen and Bernard Gill as the recommended applicants for the solid waste industry. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Joliet. Any further discussion, commissioners, on these recommendations? Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
You have 5 yeas and 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Next up, well, let's move on down to the general public applicants that we heard from. Commissioners, any questions, comments, further discussion? Commissioner Lubes?
I'd like to move that we appoint Pat Kresnick and the 2 incumbents, Marianne Ryan and Claire Galed, to the general public of Solid Waste Planning Committee.
Commissioner Lubes makes a motion. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Gershenson. Commissioners, any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, please prompt the vote for the reappointment of Claire and Marianne under the general public seat, as well as recommending Patrick Kresnick.
You have 5 yeas and 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. I'd like to bring forward a motion for the reappointment of Commissioner Bob Hoffman under the county government seat, seconded by Commissioner Joliet. Commissioners, any further discussion on this recommendation of reappointment for Commissioner Hoffman under the county government seat? Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
You have 5 yeas and 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. I'd like to move on down to the township government. I'd like to make a motion for the reappointment of Robert D. Palma. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Joliet. Commissioners, any further questions, comments, discussions on the reappointment under the township government seat for the Solid Waste Planning Committee? Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
You have 5 yeas and 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries. Next, we have the environmental interest groups. Commissioners, any recommendations? Commissioner Lubes?
We interviewed 2 applicants for 3 positions. I'm sorry, we interviewed 2 applicants. There are 2 positions open. We have an incumbent. The incumbent and one applicant both work with and belong to Sierra Club. So in light of that, I'd like to move that we appoint Jean Gramlich and Chris Bobrick to the Environmental Interest Group.
Okay, so Commissioner Lubes makes a motion for the reappointment of Jean under the Environmental Interest Group, as well as Christopher Bobrick. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Joliet. Commissioners, any comments or discussion? Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
I would like to say that Andrew Sarpolis did a great job at the interview. He has a good handle and understanding of environmental issues, from climate control to water to the electricity to recycling and how everything works together. And I remain impressed with his steadfast commitment to the environment, as evidenced by belonging on different committees at this point.
Well said, Commissioner. I will say, committee members, this is a difficult one for me, because I truly do feel like both Mr. Bobrick and Mr. Sarpolis brought a lot of great experiences and knowledge, and both of them appear to be very passionate individuals in regards to our environment and solid waste removal. Commissioner Lubes, you said it very well. I am gonna move forward with supporting the other individual under this category, but for motion's sake, we do need to proceed forward separately or together?
Separately.
Separately.
Separate motion.
Okay.
Yeah, once a motion carries, just be aware
Gotcha.
of that. It's done.
I gotcha. So at this time, Commissioner Lubes made a motion to bring forward the reappointment of Jean Grumlich and the recommended appointment for Christopher Bobrick under the Environmental Interest Group. Did we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jackson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
It's considering it.
I think it wants to know if anybody
Yeah,
has
It's
second
having
thoughts.
trouble with this
doesn't-
one.
Do you want to proceed with a voice vote, please?
I think it might be expedient here, yes.
Even technology agrees this is a tricky one.
So with on the appointments of the seats with Ramlick and Bobrick, right? So, did
No.
anything show up?
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
You have 4 yeas and 1 nay.
4 yeas, 1 nay. Motion carries. All right. Just as a reminder, Commissioners, we did recommend individuals under the Regional Solid Waste Planning Agency, SEMCOG, and the Industrial Waste Generator during our 9/29/22 board meeting. With that being said, it's never easy going through and trying to narrow down applicants. I think it's fair to say that we heard from, again, really great and passionate individuals today, and I'm hopeful that as we move forward into the future, that potentially we may be seeing interviewees in the future with other positions on boards. So again, I just want to give a gracious thank you for all of the individuals who applied and all of the individuals that we heard from today. So thank you, Commissioners. Next up, we will move on down to item number B on our regular agenda, and it is the Parks and Recreation Resolution for Healthy Communities Park and Outdoor Recreation Investment Plan. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet, support by Commissioner Loops. And I believe we've got Chris Ward and Melissa with us. So good morning. Please join us at the table at the front.
Morning. I'm bringing a heavy hitter here with me.
And our Parks and Recreation Chair, Commissioner McGilvery. So welcome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. We certainly appreciate you giving us this opportunity and taking up this resolution. As we all, I think, personally experienced during the thick of the pandemic, our parks and outdoor recreation resources and facilities really came through as a lifeline for many of us, if not all of us, and it's certainly something we've seen in terms of skyrocketing attendance, and even as we're kind of working towards a post-pandemic world, that momentum is only just growing as we continue to see more and more people coming to our parks, enjoying our facilities, and I think it just really speaks well to how our parks fulfilled a very critical need for our residents during that difficult time, and whether it was relieving mental health issues through the restoration of powers of nature, getting out and getting physically active, getting out on trails, young people getting in playgrounds, and even just the ability to socially reconnect as we were all dealing with those mitigation measures. So with that in mind, this commission passed back in March a resolution authorizing and requesting our Parks and Recreation Commission to come forward with up to $15 million in proposals to expend our American Rescue Plan dollars to improve our parks and outdoor recreation in the county. And I am pleased to share with you today their recommendation that was unanimously approved last month at their meeting in early September. It's been a great deal of hard work, a great deal of careful deliberation, and a lot of collaboration, especially some great partnerships with local governments. This entire plan is really focused on rejuvenating and improving parks that are underutilized due to deteriorating infrastructure, lack of investment over the years, and outdated recreation amenities. These projects are really focused on improving and being impactful on physical and mental health outcomes and social connections. We have, I believe, a proposal worthy of your consideration that brings both leveraging in terms of a commitment from our Parks and Recreation Commission to expend not less than $5.2 million, to put some skin in the game towards what we believe is a very worthy proposal. And also a commitment from many local governments that is a little about outside of the box in terms of long-term partnerships that really will be a game-changing realignment of our ability to service and be present in our urban core centers of the county. Those agreements are long-term partnerships that we've reached with 4 local governments will provide an opportunity for us to not only rejuvenate and revitalize some existing municipal parks, but also transition them to become the newest additions to our Oakland County Park system. And that's an exciting opportunity for us. It includes a 77-acre park right around the corner here, Hawthorne Park in Pontiac, that we believe will become Pontiac Oaks. A 35 to 40 acre portion of Shepherd Park in the city of Oak Park, and a 35 to 45 acre section of Beechwoods Park in the city of Southfield that we've reached agreement with them to become Southfield Oaks. There is an agreement with the city of Madison Heights to take on a 7-acre park that will allow us to expand and improve Red Oaks County Park. And we have tentative agreement with the city of Hazel Park to take advantage of a $500,000 federal grant that they have received to expand their recreation facilities and this will allow us to work jointly together, sharing resources, sharing a facility. Years ago, we had a South Oakland office that was part of the South Health Building. The needs in that building really had to be redirected to the health department. This will allow us to reopen and place staff there in the south end of the county in a community where we can make a big impact and build some joint recreation programming space, a multi-use space. So we really are very excited about this opportunity to become much more present and be part of the community in our urban core population centers. Of the 7,000 or so acres that are in our park system, only 24 of those acres are located in majority minority communities. And this will be a game changer. I believe it's about a 300% increase in acreage in those communities. Also part of this plan are improvements to Oakland County parks. We've used the ARPA eligibility guidelines that provide guidance in determining the disproportionate impact and focusing in on the 5 communities that we have and the 4 county parks that service those areas that have been disproportionately impacted. Includes Catalpa Oaks Park in Southfield, Lion Oaks Park in the city of Wixom and Lyon Township, Red Oaks Park located in the city of Madison Heights, and Waterford Oaks Park right around the corner here in Waterford Township. There are projects that are detailed in depth in the materials that are in your packet, and we can go through those as you wish. Each one of these plans will then be coming back forward to you in finalization form as our Parks Commission approves their Park Master Plan, our Parks and Rec Master Plan in January, updates it, and updates the plans for each individual park. There is one really major issue that the Parks Commission is really studying in depth, and we're continuing to do public input, gathering public input, and that is at Red Oaks Park, where we're looking at 2 major alternatives. One would convert the existing golf course to a public park, open to a larger audience, and allow us to move beyond what's been a long-term subsidization situation there. And alternatively, we're looking at opportunities where we can eliminate that subsidy through the management practices there, through the fees that we charge in maintaining the golf course. So that decision is scheduled to be made in January. And then we'll decide that and move that Park Master Plan over to the board, and you'll have an opportunity to weigh in on that as well. And then the final component here are capital improvement grants that would be provided directly to local communities. And again, these are the communities that meet those definitions of disproportionate impact according to the ARPA guidelines, and that includes grants to the cities of Pontiac, Oak Park, Southfield, in Hazel Park, in the Charter Township of Royal Oak. It is our proposal that Oakland County Parks and our Parks Commission would administer this program. We have 3 members of this commission on the Parks Commission. We have a representative of the county executive, the Water Resources Commissioner, and the appointees of yourselves, so on that as well. And we have what I think is a pretty complex and ambitious plan here. The projects that are included therein, our ability to complete them all will really depend on many factors, including the final construction cost, our ability to leverage and access additional funding sources. We plan to go after the state's ARPA program once this appropriation has been approved, and we have a solid game plan of where we're going to get some additional grant funding, and also to seek other sources, including nonprofit and corporate support, to allow us to really scale up and complete as many of these projects as possible. Each one of these interlocal agreements must be finalized, and that may impact the final list of projects. And as I mentioned before, the master plans for each one of these parks may have an impact on them as well. So with that, I know this is a fairly detailed plan. I really do want to thank many of you who had a chance to talk to about this in depth. Several of you went out and did some touring of these parks, and we're out to get on a golf course or golf carts out in Southfield, and I think we had a good time that evening, and I hope that you saw the potential there at that park. So with that, I don't know, Mr. Chair, if you want to add anything, or Melissa?
Just a comment. First of all, I want to thank Chris, Melissa Prowse, and Jim Dunleavy, who have done an outstanding job pulling this plan together. I think he's visited several different community leaders, city managers, township supervisors, to address some of the concerns in this plan. I think he's done an outstanding job, and I commend him on the work that he's done so far. I'm excited about this plan because this is Oakland County Parks' opportunity to expand our parks a little bit, to get some new equipment that we haven't been able to budget for over the past few years. So I'm looking forward to this plan. I'm really excited that we can get it done. So.
She's here to keep me on the straight and narrow.
All right, so at this time, I'll call on Commissioner Lubes, followed by Commissioner Gershenson.
Thank you, thank you. I love the idea of the parks in Oak Park and Southfield, Shepherd Park and Beach Woods, developing Hawthorne Park and Madison Heights, and improving the parks in the various communities. The breaking point for me is the conversion of Red Oaks Golf Course to Parkland. As much as I enjoy the rest of the plan, which is a great plan, I will not be voting yes unless the language changes regarding the proposed conversion. And I know you mentioned we will take this under consideration and decide in January and come back to the board. That's not realistic for me. I'm not willing to gamble what I've heard from residents who utilize the golf course. I would much rather see the golf course raise its rates for Oakland County residents and raise the rates even higher for non-Oakland County residents.
Understood, Commissioner. You've been very clear on your point of view on that. It is not an easy decision. We've received a lot of feedback. We've done quite a bit of public engagement, and then even follow it up with a survey to make sure that we're getting a measurement of public opinion versus intensity. And those kind of gave us some mixed results there. The public survey was a 80% question, basically, of its support of converting the golf course. The survey that was voluntary, we received, I would say, a slight majority in favor of maintaining the golf course. And we've received input at our meetings as well, and it is something our commission is really carefully considering. For our chairman, it's literally almost in his backyard. So, and he's been, perhaps more than anyone else, receiving the brunt of the public engagement directly. I don't know.
I agree. My constituents are in that area also. We're right next door. And I received a number of phone calls and texts and letters regarding this. So the survey addressed it was to Oakland County as a whole.
No.
This where did the survey go to?
The voluntary survey was really directed out to the community through our social media, through the local governments, and then the actual survey, the statistically accurate sample, was done in the service area of the park, which is essentially a 10-mile drive area.
Yeah, 15-minute drive time.
15-minute drive time around the park. So you're really talking about Clawson, Madison Heights, Hazel Park, Royal Oak, part of Troy. And that was, we limited it to them, and then we did not really finalize the survey until we got an accurate number of results that kind of represent that population and different groups within that population, so that we really wanted to find out what the opinions were of people. And traditionally, we do those voluntary surveys, but this has become such a touch point that.
I know, I agree, surveys are important. Where I saw the survey was on a sponsored ad on Facebook, so it went out to a larger area than 10 miles around, I'm guessing.
It shouldn't have. It should have been targeted to people that live within that service area. Yeah, we heard from a couple people that saw it pop up. They're having a hard time getting people to respond, so they're trying different ways to reach out. But they are targeting specific people, so we get a statistical sample. So if that gets forwarded or shared to somebody who wasn't selected, that survey result will be void.
Yeah, it was done by a firm that is professional in this area, and it was tied back to the individual filling out the survey. So there's some, ability to double check. The problem we had with the voluntary survey is that there was no really check and balance from people filling it out multiple times. And people were actually advertising on social media, hey, fill this out multiple times. And we were able to track back, I think, the IP addresses and clean some of that out, but it kind of skewed the data. But we are very much considering exactly what you're talking about. And I don't know, Ms. Chair, if you want to speak on this at all, but we have a study ongoing with our staff that we're looking at those options. Really, the most difficult issue we have there is that is the only golf course we have that is operated on a public water supply for irrigation. And due to the local ordinance, we cannot separate the water from the sewer billing. So we average anywhere from $85,000 to $100,000 a year in just water bills there, which surprisingly enough is more than double the cost of the water to provide a water park there. So
That's what we have with our combined water sewer system in our area. We have high water bills.
So that, if we could overcome that issue, I think that would get us a lot closer to meeting what our ultimate goal with our golf courses is that they operate at a surplus so that we aren't using your tax dollars to subsidize somebody else's golf game. And that particular golf course, we have a high percentage of people don't even live in the county.
Therefore, raise their rate, make it self-sufficient.
Yes, yeah, and we are looking at that, Commissioner. I think there are limits, though, in terms of how much revenue that'll bring in. And it's a 9-hole golf course, so our capability of increasing through more sales is a bit limited in terms of just the number of people we can bring through the course. So those are the issues that our commission is struggling with. I understand where you're coming from. I think I could probably express on behalf of our Parks Commission that we would rather take the money, and if you would like to amend this, if that's your wish, to exclude that possibility, that's fine. But we want to do this carefully and deliberatively, and that's going to take us a couple more months to work through that process on our end.
Madam Chair? I too am torn. I think I've told some of you that I received well over 100 phone calls, people knocking at my door at my house since I live a block away from the golf course. I've become friends with one of the people who wants to keep it open. In fact, we're going golfing this week over at Red Oaks. Either way, I'm going to vote for this, only because I'm torn. I have some concerns as to if golf should stay there. It's the only 9-horse course on the south end of the county, pretty much. It's good for seniors and for young folks just getting started in golf. But at the same time, I think this is an opportunity for parks to expand a little bit more. I'm good either way. Now, I'm still torn because I think it should stay open, but on the other hand, I'm happy with the entire plan, so I'll be voting in support of it all along.
Thank you, Commissioner McGilvery. Commissioner Gershenson?
Well, that took us down a different path that I want to go back to. But first of all, I just want to say how impressive I was with the work that went into this. This is kind of typical Chris Ward. The work we've grown accustomed to and spoiled by is the detail. I was able to come in and take a look at the whole plan in detail, and I found it extremely impressive. I'm very excited about it. And I also want to give a shout out to Commissioner McGilvery, because I know how hard he's worked on this board and on this initiative. So having said that, I find there's just so much good about this. It's very exciting, and I love the fact that we're making repairs, which we have found out we haven't been doing on many of our buildings and much of the county's infrastructure. So I think that's a critical piece of that. But you did mention, back to the golf course, that there could be an amendment. And
So according to statute, our Parks Commission must prepare and update their master plan every 5 years. That is coming up this year. We've been in the process of working through that, preparing for it throughout this year, and we're heading towards a January deadline, and then according to the statute, that also has to come over here for your approval once we approve it. Part of that master plan will be any changes to each individual park has a master plan, and that's a critical component in order to access state funding. So our plan for this particular one issue where we have basically two major alternatives to look at was to make that final determination after we conclude all of these studies. We really wanted to do some more really direct public engagement with the public in the area, do some town halls, and see if we can provide our Parks Commission and provide all of you with the best informed decision that we can. As I said, I think while we see some benefits to going in one direction, as the chairman mentioned, it's a difficult issue, and there's no really clear answer here. So I don't know that I can indicate where the Parks Commission is going to land on it at this point, but
Well, I appreciate that.
I will say that if we can identify a route to eliminate the taxpayer subsidization without creating the disruption, I would imagine that's probably the route we would go. And there are alternatives to do that. It's just a matter of putting together a solid plan. So.
Okay, well, thank you. So could we ask Commissioner Lubes if you're interested in that kind of an amendment?
I would amend it to remove the Red Oaks and Ambassador Park paragraph altogether on page 6 of our agenda item. When you have more information regarding the study and benefits, we could revisit it then.
Well, I'm frozen, I think, so I
We are
can't.
pretty well frozen out.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
If I could.
Can anybody read
If I
it
could
to us?
make a suggestion,
I can.
I would just, if that's the intention, and I understand your concern, and I don't think it's going to change, I think it would be best, from our perspective, if you just amended the resolution to exclude the possibility of converting the golf course.
I could do that.
Okay.
I
So
would.
can I just?
The paragraph I'm referencing reads, focus investment on the proposed conversion of golf course to Parkland with no entry fee or vehicle permit required except the dog park. Convert cart paths to trails that provide a non-motorized connection, just as we're going to do in Beechwoods where there was one. So I would agree to eliminate the proposed conversion of the golf course to Parkland.
Okay, so before we go there, I'd just like to provide some input and thoughts before we go there. First and foremost, I want to point out and say that throughout the pandemic, goes without saying that many of us sought out solitude within our parks across the county and within our communities. And for many of us, outdoor parks and green spaces became our saving graces throughout the pandemic. I say that because the one thing I admire greatly within this plan is the thorough details that went into taking a look at how we could better increase not only access to our parks across the county, but some real substantial investments in our parks, in our parks throughout our counties and within our communities. The time, the work, the detail, and the collaboration that Mr. Ward and the Parks Department have done with not only local governments, this commission, and residents across the board, as well as the tandem coordination and cooperation and collaboration with our Parks Commission board is impressive. And I think Commissioner Gershenson, you summed it up really great with utilizing that word of impressive, because it truly is. I will always support enhancing and creating new outdoor environments for all of our residents, regardless of who they are and where they live. And I focus on where they live because I think it's fair to further highlight that many of our parks throughout the county have been neglected over not just years, but decades. And the one thing that I read within this plan is we're finally moving forward with making sure that we are capturing equitable opportunities across not just making sure that it's inclusive, but also making sure that regardless of a zip code, our residents have an opportunity to enjoy our parks. And to me, that in itself is impressive and it is long overdue. So kudos to the Parks Department and the Parks Commission for really taking a big bite off of something that is well overdue. I do hear and have heard the concerns in regards to the golf course. The one area for me that is hard for me to wrap my head around is the costs, the water costs. It seems a high dollar amount to continue to invest in regards to the water bills to make sure that the golf course, I'm not a golfer, I don't know what it entails, but I do know one of the downsides to golf courses is maintenance, upkeep, and that includes obviously looking at water bills. So I definitely hear the concerns that Commissioner Lubes has brought forward. Respectfully, it doesn't change how I will move forward with supporting this, but I also respect the input that has been given.
Amy's helping figure out which whereas she's looking at here.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson, followed by Commissioner Lubes.
I have a comment, but if Commissioner Lubes is going to comment based upon her proposed amendment, she could proceed. But I will proceed because I don't even think she heard. Did you hear me?
No.
Commissioner
I was
Jackson,
gonna let you proceed if you were gonna commit.
before I turn it over
on
to
your
Commissioner
proposal.
Jackson, I do just want to say one last thing. The one thing that concerns me a little bit, having this committee move forward with an amendment is, and I would love to get some insight and clarification from Commissioner McGilvery. From my understanding, this did go before the commission, the Parks Commission. It passed unanimously. What effect potentially would this amendment have on the process that the commission went through in regards to their vote in supporting?
Well, thank you for asking. The reason that we're just trying to move this along, number one. But number two that I want to point out is the aspect of our master plan. And we're looking at alternatives, a way that we can keep the golf course open, if it's possible, where we can at least break even. We're not even in it for a huge profit by any means, or any profit. We just want to be able to break even. That might mean raising the greens fees. It might mean looking at other alternatives, anything that's possible to save on the water bill. It also looks at addressing higher green fees for non-residents, since they don't pay a parks tax anyway. But when it comes right down to it, that's all, we're still researching that and the alternatives of what we can do with the golf course. Again, like I stated, I'd like to see it stay open. But if it's not profitable, I can't support that. I mean, keeping it open. So I want to get all the answers with the additional survey, with the possibilities of a different system for watering, all those kinds of things. So with it today, I would like to see it move forward without an amendment. And the reason being is that part of the golf course is still under investigation, shall we say, and that will come up in January once you vote on the master plan. Because that'll clearly state that the golf course will be closing, vote against it at that point, so.
If I can, Madam Chair, really the question before you today is whether you're comfortable using Rescue Plan Act dollars to fund that conversion. The master plan process, if it's removed, the commission may still come to the conclusion that we would like to update our master plan to provide at least the opportunity or the potential of moving away from operating a golf course there. It just may not be funded with rescue plan dollars if that's the amendment. And again, you'll have another chance to take a look at that when we present that in January. So I guess this is really more of a question of whether this is something you're comfortable dedicating rescue plan dollars towards.
Thank you. Is it Commissioner Gershenson followed by Commissioner Joliet?
Go ahead.
I'm next.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Because I
Commissioner
defer
Jackson
to-
followed by Commissioner Joliet.
Thank you.
And I didn't get my defer yet.
Well, go ahead.
Well, actually, she's next.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Regarding the water bill, it's because we have a combined water sewer system. It would be wonderful if Oakland County could pay to separate it for the communities, but that's not Oakland County's responsibility. So exploring an alternate plan for watering and exploring raising the rates before we elect to eliminate the golf course, I would be agreeable to. I would be agreeable to amending this focus. I do not trust government ease, and that's what I'm hearing. The language of, oh, nope, don't worry about it now, we're gonna look at it later, but it's, my experience, it's probably written in stone.
I don't think that's accurate, Commissioner, if I can. I really do think this is something our commission is struggling with, and probably no more so than this gentleman right here, who has dealt with the brunt of it. As I said, my gut feeling is if we can identify a route to eliminate the taxpayer subsidization, it might not be done overnight, is that's probably the least disruptive thing that we could do. We have heard from people who are passionate about this. We love that people care about our parks. And so I think this is a decision is far from being made. I apologize if I speak in governmentese. I've been in government a long time, so I haven't had a real job in a long time. So.
Yeah, I don't know that you've reached the point where you speak it yet, but
Okay.
I'm comfortable in reading between the lines, so.
Okay, well, I do want to be very clear, though, that it is a decision that's been far from made. And Commissioner McGilvery can state as well, we have some pretty passionate people on our Parks Commission who believe exactly the same thing that you believe, including one of your former colleagues that is not shy about sharing her opinions, who used to chair this committee, as a matter of fact. So it just boils down to whether you're comfortable with utilizing rescue plan dollars for this purpose, and if you're not, we have plenty of projects here to focus on that are really quite worthy of utilizing those funds. So, whatever your pleasure.
Then I'd like to move forward with amending it to remove the language of conversion of Red Oaks Golf Course to Parkland.
Point of clarification, Commissioner, are you, what whereas clause is that? We're having some technical
can't pull it.
internet difficulties, so I
It's not
apologize.
in the whereas, it's in the details.
Yeah, if I can, it's in the attachments. It's in Schedule B, under the listed projects that are potential for the Red Oaks Golf Course, so.
B
just-
or C?
B.
Both. I think it's both.
Is it B? It's in B, and then the detail in C. B is effectively what you're approving, so that would be what is probably most impactful in changing.
So it sounds like, Commissioner Loops, you would like to move forward with making an amendment to Schedule B.
Well, I'd make an amendment to add a whereas conversion of Red Oaks Golf Course to Parkland is not under consideration. Okay, that's a silly way to say it. It could be said better, but.
said differently.
And I think the most appropriate way, if that's your intent, Commissioner, is to strike the language in Schedule B referring to conversion of the golf course.
So from my understanding,
Perfect.
the resolution itself does not need to be amended, but the Schedule B needs to be amended by striking out
The Red
the
Oaks and
language.
Ambassador Park paragraph.
Well, we still would hope to take on Ambassador Park whether we convert the golf course or not. So if you could just strike the reference to converting the golf course, that'll provide us the flexibility to move forward with the rest of the park plan.
I apologize for the time delay. We are working through some technical problems. Commissioner, are you able to pinpoint out the page
Here.
within the
Right, page
schedule?
6 out of 7.
Page
In which,
6
in what?
of Schedule
In
B?
the
In what?
attending documentation. first two lines.
Janet, where is it?
Okay,
There.
all right, thanks. Okay,
So just that one focus on that first two sentences.
So Commissioners, if this is helpful, I know we're still struggling with some internet connectivity on Civic Clerk.
Yeah.
all right,
But you
on page
can pull up
7 of case,
the documents.
Did you hear that, Penny?
But,
That that's the analysis, not the
right, but it's in the detail, and the detail matters.
It's in Schedule
The
C.
PDFs.
Which is
Schedule C.
referenced in the resolution.
if I can, Madam Chair, it is in Schedule C, it's in descriptive language. We'd be happy to work with the board staff to make sure that, if that's the intent, we'll make sure that we finalize an amendment that completes
So,
that.
Mr. Ward, just for clarification, is it Schedule B or Schedule C?
It's C, I was
Right here.
corrected.
Agenda item.
This is schedule B
No,
or C.
there's no schedule, it doesn't say schedule.
This is summary. You're looking at
So,
It was essentially in Schedule B under landscape restoration. There?
so just for clarification now, I'm reading under the vision statement, under Schedule C. It reads presently as increase opportunities for outdoor recreation and equality of facilities to benefit the health and wellness of people living in the area that has been disproportionately impacted by COVID. Focused investment on the proposed conversion of golf course to parkland with no entry fee or vehicle permit required except the dog park. Convert cart paths to the trails that provide non-motorized connection from John R. to 13 Mile Road to DeQuinder and multiple neighborhood trail connections. That is the area and the sentences that Commissioner Lubes you would like to see struck out.
Essentially also as well, ma'am, in Schedule B under Red Oaks Park, landscape restoration is essentially what we're talking about here. So if you'd like to strike that out, that would eliminate the ability to use the ARPA money to convert and restore the golf course.
Can you say that last part one more time?
Landscape restoration on Schedule B. The descriptive language that is in C is a vision, so it's really not
Right.
impactful. It's the landscape restoration in Schedule B. And tell me if there's anything I'm missing.
We just have this estimate includes conversion of the golf course.
Yeah, so the reference in the C is to an estimate, but if you'd like to strike that language, that'd be fine.
So the language in Schedule B, what page of Schedule B?
It is,
I think it's page 67 of the overall packet. Sorry, that's the only way I have it printed.
Thank you, Melissa.
so if you would strike landscape restoration, that'll allow us to continue to move forward with native gardens, tree planting, walking path construction, which we have a plan either way to add trailways. We have pickleball courts that we plan to build on Ambassador Park property and a green restroom there, and play structure updates as well. So that will effectively, we will know our direction essentially with that. And then in Schedule C, if you'd like to strike the paragraph on page 7 of Schedule C, that is estimates include the conversion of the Red Oaks Golf Course. That'll take care of that.
It's your board portal, that's the problem now.
Okay.
Is it the
Oh,
focus
it's okay.
investment on the
Thank
proposed
you.
I mean,
conversion
it's
of golf course to
messes with
parkland?
everything, you know.
That's the vision statement, Commissioner, so it's really not impactful. It's really more of a vision statement.
So really, it sounds like, Commissioner Lubes, if I'm understanding what you would like to move forward with making a motion is striking out the information under Red Oaks Park on page 67 of Schedule B.
Again,
I
if we
want
could
to
just
strike
strike
out
the
any
landscape
wordage,
restoration.
yep, that says proposed conversion of golf course to parkland.
So I see that under the vision statement in Schedule C. And if I'm hearing correctly, given that it's almost a vision statement, that's not what you're essentially, I think, trying to seek out to strike out. I think,
If I
Are you
can, just to be
missing the
very clear,
paragraph?
to get
Another
the
paragraph?
intention of the commissioner, under Schedule B, removing landscape restoration under Red Oaks Park, under the listed projects, budgets and planned expenditures, and then on page 6 of Schedule C, details out the plan again.
Yes.
And there is a reference there to, I'm sorry, maybe I'm on the wrong page right now. Page 7, I'm sorry, of the Schedule C. You can remove the reference to landscape restoration again, and you can remove the sentence, estimate includes the conversion of the Red Oaks Golf Course. Funding will be distributed to other projects if the commission decides to maintain the course. With that, we will have very clear direction on what we can and can't do. That okay, Mr. Chair? Is that
Said that
okay,
very
Commissioner?
nicely.
All right.
so Commissioner Loobs, are you making a motion?
I've made it about 5 times already.
So Commissioner Loobs makes a motion to strike out proposed conversion of golf course in the vision statement, and in addition to page 67 of Schedule B, landscape restoration under Red Oaks Park, and landscape restoration on Schedule C, page 6.
Also, on Schedule C, page 7, estimates include restoration of golf course.
And that's where the landscape
There's
restoration
3 different
is, too.
items.
So with those 3 items, it's striking out landscape restoration. So Commissioner Loobs moves. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Gershenson. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Gershenson.
I just want to say that you would be able to come back to us after your master plan in January and still be able to access ARPA funding, so it would just be delaying this until we get the report from your master plan in January.
That's a
Correct?
fair statement, but I think the more likely implication is we're going to move forward with a plan minus the golf course conversion and focus on the
Well, of course,
the
of
plan for the
course.
park elsewhere. If the commission adopts a master plan, it doesn't mean that means we're automatically going to implement it. It provides us an opportunity to access state funding, for instance, from the
I understand.
Trust Fund.
I'm just saying
So we would
it's-
have to amend the ARPA plan at that point to then restore the ability to utilize ARPA funding.
Or you just do a new amendment. I mean,
Yes.
yeah. So I think it's very doable that you could come back to us. So I feel more comfortable supporting this, knowing that you'll get your research in January. And
Yep.
I'm saying we would welcome you coming back
Yep,
with
we will.
that. Okay.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. I would like to say that I will not be supporting this amendment. I think all of us have supported our Parks Commission, and obviously our Chair, Commissioner McGilvery, as well as I know Commissioner Charles also sits on that commission. I respect the unanimous vote that the commission voted with on this proposal, so I am gonna, in good faith, stand by the work of our Chair of Parks and Rec, Commissioner McGilvery, and that committee as a whole. So I will not be supporting this amendment. Any further discussion on the amendment? Mr. Joliet.
I too also echo your thoughts. I appreciate the time and the money that's been spent to get this far. And I do empathize with Commissioner Loobs in terms of you representing your constituents that are very passionate about this. But in the end, I can't support it because I have to default to the process that's already been in place.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, please voice roll call on the amendment.
So amend Schedule B and C as detailed. Gershenson,
Yes.
Joliet,
No.
Jackson,
Yes.
Loobs,
Yes.
Nelson.
No.
You have 3 yeas, 2 nays.
3 yeas, 2 nays. Motion carries. Back to the initial motion, which is this proposed item. Is there any further discussion on this proposal?
I want to thank everybody, and I do want to say I am not a golfer. I do not golf. But I represent people in my area, and this is the direction they would like to go in, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. If there isn't any further questions, comments, discussion on this item, let's do a roll call on the resolution as amended.
So Gershenson,
Yes.
Joliet,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries. Mr. Ward, Melissa, Commissioner McGilvery, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, next up is our last item, Board of Commissioners resolution supporting the Michigan legislative reform to advocate for sensible, safe storage measures and reinforce the rights of responsible gun owners. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Gershenson, support by Commissioner Lubes. I'm going to call on Commissioner Gershenson as a sponsor of this resolution.
Thank you very much. So as you know, Commissioner Cavell, myself, and Commissioner Spiz have been working on gun safety issues, and we are very strong on supporting gun storage as pretty much one of our primary goals. And as some of you know, we're doing a gun buyback on October 22nd, and part of that gun buyback is going to be information and discount coupons for gun safes. So that's an integral part of all the work we're doing is to encourage safe gun ownership, safe gun storage. So I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Joliet,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Commissioner Lubes?
Is it possible to add more names on the resolution?
Sponsorship?
I would think so. I don't know if you
Absolutely.
do
we can
that
just-
at the board or you
We
do
can
it.
do that
Yeah.
administratively.
Okay, thank you.
Just, contact us to let us know.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner. We can bring that up too
Now.
at caucus as well to make sure
Me
that
too.
individuals who would like to sponsor the resolution, their names are attached. So good point. Commissioners, next up on our agenda, we've got our last and final public comment of this meeting. As a reminder, this is for any item on or off the agenda. So at this time, I'd like to open up public comment, and if there's anyone from the public who would like to address the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee, please make your way to the head of the table.
Had you been in discussion with
Seeing that there is no one from the public who would like to speak, I will close public comment. Commissioners, if there isn't any other business to come before us, I will call this meeting adjourned at 11:16 a.m. Thank you, Commissioners.